Hey guys, welcome back to your favourite podcast, Box Box Besties, with me, Alice. And it's weird not having Chloe here actually. As you can tell, I'm on my own today and still back in the same setting. But yeah, some schedules just didn't match up and we still wanted to make sure you had an episode going out, especially after F1 had finally come back. So yeah, it's just going to be a solo one today, but we have definitely lots to talk about and debrief. It has been a crazy weekend and I am so happy we finally have some racing back. And obviously last week me and Chloe sat and spoke about how the FIA had announced new regulations and things like that, and we tried to explain them to you in some way. So yeah, it was nice to see some proper racing, and I think there's definitely a lot we can debrief. So let's get into it. First of all, we have F1 back, and it was a sprint weekend in Miami. A lot of Miami faces, honestly. Some people in the paddock, although still no Kim Kardashian, which shocks me because I thought this is where she'd make her debut. I did see an interview where Lewis Hamilton was actually asked about Coachella, because obviously he made an appearance at Coachella with Kim K, but he kind of brushed it off very quickly, and his face kind of showed how stunned he was to be asked such a question. But it was definitely a very eventful weekend, and let's unpack it all. So we had an extended practice session this week, obviously with the new regs coming in and everything changing, and the fact that we'd had such a long break from F1, and not necessarily from racing for them, because they'll have still been in the car and working hard, but they hadn't actually driven properly the new cars that they've changed and upgraded and whatnot, and we've definitely seen some upgrades. It was nice to see McLaren back up there, you know, as a Lando fan. But then a lot of the midfield, I hate calling them midfield teams, I really do, because I think all teams are so, like, they're just unique in their own way. And yeah, I hate calling them midfield teams, but midfield teams, we saw them pushing up the ranks this weekend, and it was just so amazing to finally see and watch. So we saw Franco qualify the highest he has, and it was so amazing. And we also saw a new addition for him to the paddock, his new girlfriend, who he hard launched in the paddock this weekend. That was so cute to see. I've seen so many edits of them already. It's so cute. But we've definitely seen in that practice session how quickly the cars have adapted and changed. I think one thing is obviously the big part of the weekend was the weather. It was beautiful throughout Friday and Saturday, but then on race day there was these thunderstorms and everything, and you know, me and Chloe have spoken about before how scary we think it's going to be for when there is wet weather, and especially with the way that the regs are, it's just terrifying. So I was a little bit worried about that, but they actually brought the race forward. So for the UK, if you live in the UK, it was going to be at 9 p.m, but it actually got moved forward to 6 p.m. So just to try, I think the FIA were trying to miss out on this patch of thunderstorms and torrential rain, because I saw a lot of the wags posting on their stories and it looked horrendous weather. Like, everyone was in these really nice outfits, hair done nice, it was all so nice, and it was chucking it down with rain. And a couple of people had posted in the stadium that the paddocks rinks is in the Hard Rock Stadium, they had, like, on the screens there was like these warning messages for the rain and things like that, and like where to take shelter. And yeah, it seems like a crazy weekend to just come back to. First weekend back and boom, you've got thunderstorm. So, you know, but so they had the longer practice session. It was an hour and a half instead of an hour, but we also had a sprint qualifying, and that obviously saw Lando Norris take pole, and that was highlight of my Friday. It was perfect, just what I wanted to see. It shows that there is an improvement to the McLaren car. There is so many changes that have been made, and it's finally nice to hopefully see let's see some consistency now from it. Let's see McLaren continue to climb and stay up there. But if we look here already, Norris has now, after that weekend, moved up into the 4th place for the Drivers' Championship, which obviously, with the lack of racing, and obviously he had to retire the car, there's been lots of issues down at McLaren. So it's nice to see some proper racing from both Oscar and from Lando. It was, a double podium was definitely nice to see. Although I was shocked with the Ferraris, if I'm being completely honest. I thought the Ferraris would have done a lot better than they did this weekend. I think that is something they need to go back and revisit, because it seems to be now they're the ones with the issues. And the same with Mercedes. Like, in that sprint race, I genuinely thought, when I saw Lando got pole, I was very happy, but I was really shocked, because I was like, no more Mercedes domination? Like, are we seeing a new leaf being turned? Is this gonna be the road to another championship, please? But in the sprint race as well, we also saw some issues at Audi. There was a lot going on for them this weekend, and unfortunately it also happened in the main race as well. We saw a lot of issues with Hulkenberg having to retire, Bortoletto's car on fire, Hulkenberg's car on fire during the weekend. There was a lot going on over there. But we saw Cadillac actually perform a little bit this weekend, and we saw some form of potential from them. Obviously it didn't really convert to much in the race, but we actually saw a bit of racing from them, and a bit of power coming from the car, and that was something nice to see. So hopefully these new upgrades have actually improved it for the drivers. I did see the post-race interview with Jensen and Lando, and he said, look, you know, there's still some things that haven't changed, there's still some things that have, but you know, if the viewers enjoy it, then, which to me obviously shows that he's still not the best pleased with how the car is and how he's driving it. Maybe I'm not too sure, but to me that shows that there's still some underlying issues for him, and that he's not enjoying it as much as he did last year. I mean, we saw complete McLaren domination last year, so it's hard, I think, maybe when you go from having such a successful season to then coming into this, maybe it is quite hard to come to terms with. I don't know, but yeah, it was nice to see some McLaren happiness and some McLaren on the podium as well. So we haven't seen that for a long time. It's been tough. Okay, McLaren fans, we understand. I'm happy Mercedes and Ferrari are getting their little moment to shine. But now it's time for McLaren fans to take back over, please. Obviously, we've got Canada next as well. So, fingers crossed. Hopefully, they've got a bit of time now to just continue to upgrade the cars. And hopefully, we'll see that. But the sprint race saw Lando take the win. Very happy to see that. And just enjoying every second of seeing a McLaren with a first place. Please. And then obviously the race happened, so we got brought forward, and the race start was the most stressful start, I think, of this year for definite. It was a lot. Max, how he saved that spin, I actually have no idea. I genuinely have no idea. That takes an insane amount of skill. That is an insane amount of skill, and hats off to him, because I don't think I could ever do anything like that. Obviously, Kimi Antonelli just didn't get the greatest start. This is something we saw with Lando last year, though. Like, his starts were never that great, and he'd always lose it into the first corner, but then he'd bring it back and he'd win the race. This is something similar we're seeing with Kimi. His starts are never the best, and he kind of loses it halfway through the first lap or during the first lap, but then he'll convert it still into a race win, which is just insane. These drivers are just insane, and I mean, that's probably why they're at the top level. So but yeah, the first lap was intense. You know, we see Kimi, Lando, Max Charles, all battling it out at the start. So Lando was in 4th, we had Kimi on pole, Max in 2nd, Leclerc, and then Lando. So they were all going into this corner together. You could see that Antonelli had like pointed his car a little bit inwards towards Max, and Max had pointed his car inwards towards Kimi. So they were already going to go for each other at the start. And they actually both locked up going into turn 1, which I was sat there like, I was like screaming at the telly, like fully screaming, because I was like, there's gonna be a crash. So they both lock up going into turn 1, which means Charles can just sweep right through, Lando can just come through, and it seems like Max panics a little bit after his lock up, and that's what causes him to spin out. There's just a bit of panic and a bit of loss of control, and he just completely spins out. But how he pulled it back, because when you've got like 20 other cars coming behind you and you're spinning out in the middle of the track, that must be terrifying. Like, because you think as he's spinning, he's just turning around and seeing all these cars coming towards him. I'd be terrified. And I also just don't think I like the strength to pull it back. I don't think I could do it. So yeah, he managed to pull that back. But when you're watching it on the telly, it looks like Kimi's in 1st place, and then it's Lando, and then it's Max is like way further back. But Charles has actually shot through and just completely taken off. The pace in that Ferrari was insane. He just kept going, and like he was just not in the camera's view. Everyone thought it was Kimi in 1st, but actually no, Charles is already on turn 10. So yeah, he took off quite quickly. But again, we're seeing in the Mercedes that the race pace is there. Like, no matter what, the race pace is still there for them. So there was a lot of battles going on between Oscar, George, Max, Lewis. There was so much going on in like the top 10. And we saw a bit of pace come out of the McLarens with Lando as well. He managed to catch up to Kimi, overtake Kimi, and then it was between Kimi, Lando, and Charles. Like, it was just a whole thing in the first lap. Then the safety car also got brought out because of Hadjar. He had had an incident. He had gone to go around one of the corners and clipped, I think it was like the side bit, and then his steering broke, and you could see just how angry he was with himself. He was really, really not happy with himself. And while that's going on, Liam Lawson is pitting Pierre Gasly, and Pierre Gasly's flipped his car onto his head and like rolled back over. It was terrifying to watch. Honestly, the halo, I mean, probably as a driver, I don't know how important or how much impact the halo maybe makes to them, but you know, without the halo, I just think his head would have been scraping across the concrete floor, and that's just scary to even think about. The fact that we had cars, F1 cars without a halo, actually terrifies me. Like, best thing to ever be invented for F1, because that just the thought of not having a halo now just absolutely terrifies me. Because I remember a few years ago when there was a lot of battle between Lewis and Max and things like that, and I think the halo had just been introduced. It was very new, and it's when Max's tyre, I think it was at Monza, I want to say, please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure it was at Monza, and Max and Lewis like ended up on top of each other like that, and Max's tyre was like where the halo and the cockpit was Lewis, and if it wasn't for the halo, Lewis's head would have been crushed by an F1 car tyre. So we thank the halo every day. But yeah, Pierre Gasly had quite a scary incident. He was completely okay and managed to get out of the car and walked away from it, but I'm not sure what actually happened to Liam Lawson. By the looks of it, Pierre was going on the outside and Liam just kind of came straight in towards him and just clipped him as he was coming around the bend. But yeah, a scary one and a crazy first couple of laps, because we saw the safety car get brought out and then that bunched everyone back up a little bit. So that was another exciting restart. And Charles, then the Ferrari pace just seemed to drop, and we saw Lando Norris leading the Miami Grand Prix, guys. I felt like it was 2024 all over again. Anybody else still stuck in 2024? His first win, because I am every time we go to Miami. But it was very nice to see McLaren there leading, but the strategy just kind of let them down. Kimi managed to get away with the undercut, and it was a matter of seconds. It really was when Lando was coming back out. It always seems to be that when Lando needs a good pit stop, he doesn't get it. And it was hard to watch but the pace was there. The McLaren, he was fighting back, like they were battling it out with each other quite a lot, and he got close. He did get close a few times. Max pitted under the safety car, so he managed to climb the ranks pretty quickly, because then everyone else started pitting. I think he did something like 46 laps or something like that on the hard tyre, I think it was. It was something ridiculous, because he'd pitted, I think he pitted on like lap 7. So he ended up doing like not 30, it'd been about 40 something laps on a hard tyre. And I was like, what? Surely your tyres have had enough. Like, that is terrifying. But yeah, Kimi managed to get away with the undercut and pitted first before Lando. So he had to respond by pitting. But yeah, it just didn't work out, and you could tell Lando was frustrated with that. He was like, we should have won that one. That was ours to win, and we just messed up on the strategy, and I was really upset. I don't know about you guys, but I was really upset with that one. It was nice to see him take the top step there, but obviously, and then throughout the race, we saw Oscar come back into it. He was battling with Max and George. There was kind of like a little 3-way battle going on between them. But even though the regs have changed, we are still seeing some proper racing. Like, we're still seeing some overtakes. We're still seeing everything. I think this was the start of, in High School Musical terms, the start of something new. Okay, this was a nice way to start F1 back. It kind of is like just the start of the season, really. Like, we've not really had much racing as it is, so it's nice to see it all come back. But there was a lot of discussion with penalties and things going on, but a lot of them got decided to be investigated at the end of the race. So we knew we was going to get a lot of information at the end of the race. But at the minute, it was Kimi, Lando, Charles. That was the running order. And there was this midway battle for fourth between George, Oscar and Max. One would overtake, then the other would boost and then overtake. And it was just like a constant like swap that was going on. And literally Oscar decided to leave it until the last lap. Lap 57, okay? Kimi Antonelli has already nearly crossed the line. And it goes Kimi, Lando, Charles, Oscar, George, Max. And then Charles and Oscar are battling it out. And Oscar Piastri, on the 57th lap of the race, takes third place from Charles. I don't actually know what happened to Charles, but he ended up spinning out and collecting some damage. And that just absolutely messed his car up. And he was like a tractor. Coming around the last few corners, he was going so slow. It was like painful to watch, in a sense. Like, it was stressful, because obviously you could see George catching up behind him, and I was like, oh my gosh, like George is going to overtake him, like, and then obviously George did end up, I cannot get my words out today. George did end up overtaking him, and then so did Max, and Charles was literally like jumping across the line with it. And I'm still not too sure. I can't really find where it says what is wrong with it. We'll have to have a little look. But he originally finished in 6th place. It was Antonelli, Norris, Piastri, Russell, Verstappen and Leclerc. That was the original top 6. And then we later find out that Leclerc had received a 20-second time penalty. 20 seconds. I think that's a little bit extreme, guys. Like, they're saying that he's gone off track, but he's not even gained an advantage when he's gone off track. He's gained a disadvantage because he got overtaken by 2 cars. So I don't understand why he's got a 20-second time penalty, in my opinion. I think that's really unfair. I do not understand why he's got that, because it's not like he went off track and gained an advantage. You know, it was two or three corners away from the checkered flag, and they're moaning that he's been driving and he carried on the race with an unsafe car. Well, nobody likes to see a race finish under the safety car, and that's what would have had to have happened. And the race is done. Kimi had already crossed the line. So I just don't understand. I think they've been very, very harsh on the rules there, because continuing the race with an unsafe car, granted, if there was 10 laps left, then fair play. But there wasn't. He literally had like 2 corners to go around. So I think that's ridiculous. So then he ended up dropping to 8th place, which pushed Hamilton and Colapinto up. Colapinto having his best finish yet, which was very nice to see. He celebrated well with that. Obviously, Kimi, 3 wins in a row now, and he is the first person to convert 3 consecutive poles into 3 race wins consecutively. So he is just rewriting that history book. His name is going to be stamped all over it. We are really seeing Kimi show his like true, as Toto said, I think he said his share in price is going up or something like that. He made a comment. But Lando obviously did seem to have some issues towards the end of the race as well, we noticed. So that's why because he was literally within like 1.3 seconds, I think, and he was catching, it was getting really close. And then he had to drop back a bit because there were some issues with the car, which was really sad to see. But it was nice. We still had a double McLaren podium as well. We had a 2-3, and then we had the 1-2 for the sprint. It was a very good weekend, I think, for McLaren, and they need to continue to take the positives from it and not focus on like, oh, well, we had issues with the car. Because the positives are, you've come from the back of the grid and not starting races to now getting yourself on the podium. That is an achievement in itself. But our top 10 was Albon, Sainz, Leclerc, Colapinto, Hamilton, Verstappen, Russell, Piastri, Norris, Antonelli. Double points for the Williams, which is amazing to see with Albon and Sainz. We love that for Sainz. I just want to see him higher. I want to see him back on the podium. Obviously, we had 4 retirements with Hulkenberg, Lawson, Hadjar, and Gasly. Lawson retired after the safety car came in after his collision with Gasly. Hadjar, obviously, with his crash. Hulkenberg had an issue with the car as well, and it was catching fire again, so he had to quickly get that in. But then, unfortunately, we saw the Cadillac finish in last place with Bottas. Then we had Stroll, Perez, Alonso, Lindblad, Ocon, Bortoletto, and Behrman. I think Arvid, I think he did really well, but I think now there's starting to be some cracks in, not his driving, in the car. I think I would like to see him in the top 10 more this year. I think he is a driver with an insane amount of potential. I think he just needs the right car, or I think it would be interesting to see if, you know, at Canada, like we always say, some tracks, they just work better for some teams, and that's just how it is. But one thing I do want to look at as well is the Verstappen penalty. So we're here talking about how Charles Leclerc got a 20-second time penalty, right? And if we go to Verstappen, he got a penalty, but he managed to keep 5th place because he only got a 5-second time penalty. And that was for crossing the white line at the pit exit after his pit stop. Now, it's the same rule for everybody. Obviously, they have a speed limit, and when you're entering and exiting the pit lane, there is a solid white line that you cannot cross over until the line's gone, and when you're racing, you cannot cross into that line. And don't get me wrong, it was literally the tiniest bit over, but rules are rules, and he received a 5-second penalty, but it didn't affect his space because Lewis was 10 seconds behind Max. So we're giving a 5-second time penalty for that, yet Charles Leclerc is receiving a 20-second penalty. I don't get it. Like, they're saying Leclerc spun and hit the barriers after the last lap, suffering damage but limped around, cutting several corners. He was overtaken by George and Max in the final 2 corners across the line in 6th, but his time penalty means he drops 2 places. The steward said, car 16 spun on the last lap at turn 3 and hit the wall but continued on track. The driver informed us that the car appeared fine, save that the car would not negotiate the right-hand corners properly. Given this problem, he was forced to cut chicanes on the way to the checkered flag. We determined that the fact that he had to cut the chicanes, i.e. leave the track, meant that he gained a lasting advantage by leaving the track in that manner. How has he gained a lasting advantage when he when he got overtaken by 2 cars? I don't understand. The fact that he had a mechanical issue of some sort did not amount to a justifiable reason. We accordingly imposed a drive-through penalty on car 16, given the number of times the car left the track and gained an advantage. We also considered whether there was an additional breach in continuing to drive a car with an obvious and discernible mechanical issue. We determined that there was no evidence of there being an obvious and discernible mechanical issue. We therefore took no further action in relation to that potential infringement. So his penalty could have been way higher, but he managed to get away from that one. There was obviously an incident between Max and George right at the end. There was some front wing damage to George as they were battling out in the last couple of corners, but that was no further action. I don't agree with Charles Leclerc's time penalty. I really don't. I think that is really, really unfair. I just do not think that was a reasonable time penalty at all. But yeah, it was a very intense first race back, I would say. We saw a little bit of rain, but not too much of the thunderstorm. Thanks for the race being brought forward. I think if the race time had kept the same, I think it would have been a very tough race. And I think we know that Max performs well in the wet, so I think maybe he might have taken that one. It's hard to know. It's hard to tell. So yeah, glad that F1 is back. It is nice to see. We have Miami we just had Miami. Guys, my brain is not working today. I don't know what is going on. We have Canada next, and there will be me and Chloe back together. There are some very exciting things that Chloe is going to touch on, and yeah, we cannot wait as the Monaco trip is getting closer and closer. We have, a lot to sort out before we go. It's a bit of a stressful time, but we are super duper excited for that one. Yeah, just me today, and we have debriefed a lot. We have debriefed the sprint race, the actual race. Let me know what you guys think about the time penalties. Do you think Verstappen should have got a bigger penalty? Do you think he should have got a penalty at all? Do you think Leclerc had the right penalty, or do you think that was a bit harsh? Because, as I've said, I think it is very harsh. But I will say, I know that me and Chloe, we talk about the regs all the time. We are the regs' biggest fans, as you will have seen from other episodes. But I think that we are starting to see a bit of a turnaround. I mean, I know I'm only speaking for myself here. I think that is starting to be a bit of a difference. I definitely saw a difference in racing this weekend. And I saw a more equal ground with all of the cars, and it was nice to see some of the midfield teams come up, and obviously double points for the Williams. Franco Colapinto, he had an amazing drive. He did so well. Kimi, he had to fight for that win. That was a tough race, and he really did do so well. So that was also nice to see. And I always love hearing the Italian national anthem. So, yeah, a really good weekend. Very happy that F1 is back. Hope you guys are too. Obviously, we saw the return of the beautiful Wags in the paddock. Also, Jolie was in the paddock as well. She was with a boss. She looked absolutely amazing. She absolutely killed the weekend. It was so good. So a huge shout out to her, because she absolutely killed that. It was so good. She looked amazing, and she did an amazing job. But yeah, F1 is back, everybody. Let's get some consistency going with F1, and yeah, we will see. Well, yeah, we will see you next week. It won't just be me. We will be back to normal. next week. So I hope you have enjoyed a little solo episode where I have rambled a lot, so I do apologise. Normally, obviously, it's just me and Chloe bouncing off each other and talking, but today I feel like I have rambled way too much. So I am sorry if you're sick of hearing my voice, but I hope you have enjoyed, and we will see you next time. Love you, bye!
Okay, thank you, Alice, and hello, besties. It's a bit of a weird feeling today not being there with Alice, but what an insane pod that was. Covered a lot, and here is my little segment of the video. So, as you know, next week is a very exciting week for us. We are going to Monaco. We are going to Monte Carlo to watch the Formula E. It is going to be an insane weekend. It's going to be absolutely incredible from start to finish. From when we get to the airport to we get home, it is going to be jam packed, and we're going to be taking you along with us. So firstly, just give you a little insider, we are going to be vlogging the whole weekend, so might be 2 vlogs, might be 3, might be 1, who knows. So you're going to have to keep an eye on our socials for that one. And then we are also going to be filming an episode of the podcast whilst we're over there, which is going to be, it's going to be interesting. Who knows how it's going to go, but we are super excited to bring all the content with you. So next week we will still be bringing you an episode of the podcast on the Wednesday. We'll be talking all things Formula E. We'll be building up, ready ahead of our trip to Monaco, and it's so exciting. Alice has literally just messaged me now. I just wanted to pop on, say hi, end up this vlog, get you all super excited for Monaco, because we are honestly absolutely buzzing, having conversations already, content planning, outfits are done, they're ready, just need to pack them. Super exciting. So we're gonna say love you, bye. I'll see you next week where me and Alice will be reunited again, and we'll be talking all things Formula E and our Monaco trip. Right, love you, bye.